Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Secret Sunday session. Today I'm joined by Kyle Bruce. Welcome, Kyle.
How you going?
Thank you so much for joining us today. For those people that are not aware who Kyle is, he is an Australian Olympian in the weightlifting space. So we really want to start this conversation, obviously, today about, Kyle, your journey and your road to the Paris Olympics, which is approaching very soon. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your, what I would imagine be a hectic schedule in the lead up to it. But for those people that are not aware of who you are, what you're doing, and how your Olympic journey really came about, how did it, and who is Kyle?
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me on. So I'm Kyle Bruce. I'm going to the 2024 Paris Olympic Games for weightlifting, which is really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Basically, I got into weightlifting from just being a sporty kid growing up, always, sports being heavily involved in, different things, doing triathlons, gymnastics, athletics, swimming, indoor track cycling, gym. There's too many sports. Anyway, and eventually just, wanting to get better at weightlifting for my rugby, so I could get a little bit stronger, a bit more powerful like that, so I could kind of be at a better level, because I was sort of playing at like a New South Wales level when I was like 15, 16. I could see a semi-professional / professional career in rugby. So my strength conditioning coach recommended to go, seek out some assistance for weightlifting. So I went there to my local PCYC at the time, and I didn't go back. So that's kind of like how I got into weightlifting. But yeah, no, I'm super grateful for where I am right now. It's awesome. Yeah.
Incredible. And obviously, you were surrounded by sport when you were younger. And I feel like it's almost the Australian culture to always be doing something or looking for something more. Was there a point where you realized you were actually pretty good at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like growing up, like, yeah, sport in Australian culture is huge, right? Every kid wants to be like either an Olympian, or they want to be like a professional rugby league player, or they want to do something like at a high level of sport. It's just like the Aussie kid's dream, you know. But I think for me, like I always tried really hard in the things I did. I was always like sort of like top of the class, top of the level like that. But I felt like when I got that extra, like if I made like states or if I made nationals or something for like athletics or that, I'd always get whooped. So it was like I always had to work really, really, really hard. So I felt like for me, I always had that extra drive to be like, I know there's people out there that are better than me, but if I just keep consistent and keep working hard, this will eventually pay off for me. And I think that's kind of how weightlifting works, because I think weightlifting's not a super competitive sport in Australia. Like, it's not, participation wise, you can't compare it to something like little athletics, or you can't compare it to like swimming or gymnastics or rugby or something like that. So obviously it's quite a niche sport like that. So I think starting weightlifting with that mindset, that just consistency and patience and like never wanting to sort of give up, for me, worked out really well. And I feel like that's why I've got some good success in the sport. But yeah, I felt like I kind of knew I had something going for me when my coach, still my coach at the time, who was an Olympian, actually went to Barcelona 1992 Olympics, but he represented Iran, not Australia. Said to me, like, in my second session, you got a lot of potential here. I don't want to kind of waste my time here or beat around the bush. Like, if you want to be serious with this, you can go to Commonwealth Games, you can get medals, you can win, you can go to Olympic Games, you can, get to a really good level in this sport, but you got to be fully committed. So I'm just being transparent with you. Like, do you want that? Still remember that conversation like it was yesterday, and it was in sparing English because English was very bad at the time. But I was like, yeah, no, I do. Like, I do want to try, because I've always wanted to be like an Olympian or be at like the highest level of sport, So I thought, you know what, why not? Like, weightlifting's here. This is a good opportunity for me. Just before I bring up weightlifting, actually 6 months prior, my father passed away from an incurable cancer, which was really, really tough. Just going through that whole process for like 2.5 years, seeing my best friend be so healthy and fit, and just seeing him turn to someone that was just not like that was so hard to see. So I felt like weightlifting was a new opportunity for me to explore something different, and not have that sort of, because rugby and all those other sports, that was our sort of thing. Like, we did that together. And when he passed away, it felt really hard. I had like this empty void. It didn't feel like I wanted to do it anymore. So I felt like weightlifting came into my life at the right period of time for me to make that decision. So yeah, it was interesting.
Wow, that's so incredible. And obviously, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's
Yeah.
almost kind of something that helped you deal with your grief and sort of find a different avenue for you to really venture out on your own and rediscover yourself and what that looked like.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. It was something that was like, yeah, I was going through that, and I didn't realize I was like obviously feeling very sad, and I was depressed, and I was down because I'd never, as like a 15, 16-year-old, like I've never, like, no one really goes through something like that, especially at such a critical age development, sort of like from 13 to 16, to go through that is really tough, you know. And yeah, it's just I just remember like when he passed away, I still went to rugby training and stuff, and I just didn't like it. I had no passion for it. I lost all passion for it, you know. And I just want to try something different. And that's when obviously I went to try weightlifting, and then I met Ali, and Ali's kind of taken over that father figure in my life, which is like awesome because we're super close, you know. Like I always go to his home, always talk to him. We have good conversations and stuff. So I felt like it was just sort of like, yeah, life's a bit like that, you know. Sometimes the right thing comes up at the right time, and I felt like it just felt like it made sense, you know. So here I
Mm.
am.
Wow. If you don't mind me touching a little bit on it, but obviously
Yeah, of
with the
course.
loss of your father, did you find, I know a lot of people do experience grief and can experience it in different ways, but was it easier as time went on, or how did you find that you dealt with it? Obviously, weightlifting was a big part of that, but were there
Yeah.
other ways that you were able to cope?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing was weightlifting, obviously, but I felt like that kind of went to a bit of an obsession at the time, because it was like I needed something different. Like I needed to latch onto something to sort of forget about what I was like, how I truly felt, and how I was actually grieving. I felt like at the time I managed it well because it was a new thing. It was exciting. Like obviously starting a brand new sport, you know, there's all these different things that you can do and that. But obviously as you progress to mature on, like I've been doing weightlifting now for 9 years, you sort of lose that novelty after a couple of years, and it becomes, you know, stagnant, I guess. And I think a few years later, I started to sort of realize, like, oh man, I think I kind of like, I went a little bit too hard with the weightlifting just to sort of get over how I was feeling, you know. So yeah, I feel like at the time, like obviously I was grieving a lot about it, but I felt like as the years went on, I felt like I grieved a little bit more because I was a bit more mature, and I felt like I understood that, you know what, I was probably just a kid. I probably just want to find something new to just latch onto and not think about what had actually just happened. So the reality of the situation didn't kind of hit me. But I feel like now I'm much more like understanding of what's happened. I've come to terms with what it is, you know, and I've got good strategies and stuff to deal with it. But yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's incredible, and it's crazy because a lot of people do experience that way. You know, when we process something so young, we often block it out and we just run.
Yeah.
We find ways to cope that are not always healthy,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we circle back around when we're ready to really process that.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've changed, like as I've grown up as well, like as a business owner and an athlete like that. I used to be that running mentality. Like if something shit went to the wall, and I just, excuse my language, and things just didn't go well, I just run. You know, like I just didn't want to deal with it. I just throw my hands up and just go somewhere else. You know, I didn't want to deal with conflict, or I didn't want to deal with like anything that was lingering. You know, I just wanted to sort of like go away. But I felt like as I've grown up, I've become more mature. Now it's like I'll deal with things front on, and I feel better about it, you know? So yeah.
It is. It's just one of this journey of just self-discovery and constantly learning how we can turn up for ourselves in so many different situations. But talking about, you know, weightlifting, and as you said, there were so many different sports that you tried, especially obviously rugby was a big part of your journey. What feeling made it different for you to pursue weightlifting? Like, why was it the answer? I mean, you could have chosen anything. With that determination, that personality trait, you could have got to extents with anything that you obviously tried. But what feeling does weightlifting give you?
I think I'm gonna link this back to, because I was messaging you before we did this podcast, but I went through a bit of a patch with, like, I had issues with eating and body image dysmorphia, and like losing weight and stuff, and that was all happening whilst my father was dying, essentially, because I had no control of the situation. So I got really heavy into the gym, bodybuilding, diet, nutrition, trying all these different things, paleolithic, ketogenic, doing like all these whack diets and stuff. You know, it's like a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, because I didn't have anything. I had no control over what was happening. Like I knew from the age 14 that, hey, in 2 years, your man's gone, you know? So either deal with that now, or just accept it. I didn't want to accept it. So I tried. So for me, I got heavy into the gym when I sort of found that news, because that was sort of like it was a good endorphin release. It was a good way for me to sort of get out. And because, you know, every single day I go to school in the morning, and after school, I'd go to the gym and straight to Westmead Hospital with my dad for like 3 hours every single day for like 2, 3 years straight. You know, so it was a good little escape from the reality of the situation. Because when I was in the gym, I wouldn't think about it. Like I wouldn't think about, oh, like like what's happening with your dad, or anything. I just be focused on, lifting the weights, and I really enjoyed that. I had like a good feeling when I was there, So I feel like that's what kind of like made me focus more towards weightlifting, sort of making that decision to actually want to do it. Obviously, weightlifting isn't just gym. Gym is so much more broad, right? But I still got the same feelings when I did weightlifting, like the endorphin release, the dopamine, things like that. But yeah, that's kind of why I felt like I went more towards weightlifting, pursuing that after rugby. 100%. Yeah.
I think it's really important to touch on that topic as well when you do talk about that body dysmorphia. I mean, so often we speak of it as it's just a female thing, but
Mm.
how it is so common as well in this space with people that are the gym junkie, that are trying to look a certain way or to buff up. There is a culture that really does surround that, that men as well can get lost in the trends and dipping in and out. And at all, did you find that you could dissociate and really see that this was quite a toxic cycle that you were in?
When I sort of like got out of it, because weightlifting's niche, right? It's a sport. Like, you're actually competing. It's not so much focused on your physique. It's not focused on looking a certain way or eating a certain amount of calories, tracking these macronutrients, these micros, etc., like that. Like, once I was more focused on weightlifting, and I wanted to train for performance, and I wanted to train to feel good and perform well. That helped me sort of take away from that, and realize, man, that's stuffed up. Like, because I was doing that for years on end. Like, it's like social media, YouTube, like as a kid watching all that, seeing all these guys who are probably like taking a lot of steroids as well at the gym, and probably aren't realistically being truthful, okay, as a male, and seeing them and go, oh, I can look like that. You try weird things. Like, I remember I tried all these different diets. I lost like 10, 15 kilos. I was like really skinny because I just wanted a six pack. I just wanted to look yoked. You know what I mean? But then now I look back on that and I think it's just such a stupid thing to do, because I was just so easily influenced by other things like YouTube and stuff at the time. But doing weightlifting and actually focusing on performance and going, like, obviously I still look good, I still feel good, but not having that direct idea of like, oh, I've got to be a certain body fat, or oh, I've got to look this way. And yeah, like, it's hard, it's so mental, because I struggled to get out of that. I really did, because there was a time where, like I said, it all links, and I talked to my psychologist about it. It all linked to my father. Obviously, I lost control. I needed control. Diet, nutrition, training was all a gateway. Exercise, this sort, like, all that was a way for me to control what was happening. And obviously now I'm older, I can acknowledge that. I look back on that and I just think, man, like, I feel for young kids, especially young men, looking at like today's fitness industry and fitness influencers and stuff. Like, it's a hard world out there. Like, yeah, it's tough, especially as a male. Like, always looking at these like these guys who are looking like really ripped and jacked, and having that masculinity sort of stereotype. Like, I've got to look a certain way, and if I'm fat, that's bad, or if I'm too skinny, that's not good. Like, I need biceps. Like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
It's intoxicating too. I think once you start becoming, or you start, subscribing to that culture, you can't
Yeah.
escape it. It's the trends, it's the looks, it's the social media feeds, it's this constant like feed in your face that is telling you that you are not enough and this is how you have
Yeah.
to look. And for someone
Yeah.
that, as you said, is young, especially I feel a man, I don't feel like they get enough of a rap about it, because it is very, females need to be more body positive and they need to look a certain way, but it's like the males do as well. And as you said, that competitive environment, that this is what a typical man looks like, and if you don't fit that mold, is really demoralizing for a man.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like there's like, yeah, the ideal look for a man is so unrealistic for like 90% of men out there. So it's like, yeah, it's like, where do you have that line? But I mean, I still struggle with it as well. Like, sometimes I'll be training, I'll have my shirt off, I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh man, like, I could look a little bit better. Like, I feel like I could look a bit more. Like, it's hard, but you've just got to switch out and be like, no, no, like, I'm happy, I feel good within myself, I'm happy with like what I'm doing, I don't need to go back. But it's so mental, like, I remember when I was like 15, we'd be going out to actually, I got a story. Like, I went to my year 10 formal, and everyone ordered all this like food. It was just like a set menu. I brought chicken and broccoli and rice because it didn't fit my macros. And everyone's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh no, like, I'm on like 1,750 calories today. I'm on like this many carbs, fats, and protein, like that. Like, I can't eat that. And they're like, bro, are you all good? And I remember that I took a step back and I was like, I don't know if I am all good, to be honest. Like, yeah, that's a great point. Like, I'm in year 10. Like 15, and I'm eating chicken and broccoli at my formal because I'm scared that I'm gonna get fat. Like, you know, what's going on here? It's tough. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
it really isn't, and you pinpointed it perfectly. Like, it is all mental. It's conditioning, it's that we've heard, and that underneath it all, obviously, there's that need for control, but surface level, it's all that wanting to feel in power and wanting to feel like we can control something. And food is often the most readily available, as well as exercise. It's something that we can hold that control and that power to do. And it does. I think it gives us that subconscious sort of level of endorphins, like making us feel good, but it's kind of false in a sense. It's not the real thing that we're actually after. And it's scary because as we see, you saying like 15, 16, and then year 10, like, but we have kids now that are like 10 and 11 that are looking at doing this because they're being handed phones and they're on social media and they're
yeah,
being
yeah.
receiving this messaging as well.
Yeah, and I mean it was all like it was an eccentric figure. Like I went out and did it on my own, like because I was quite interested about it on my own. But yeah, exactly what you mean. Like kids these days are getting access to phones, technology from such a young age. What's stopping them from going out there and doing that and potentially making bad decisions when they're younger? You know, affecting their metabolisms, change. Like it's a steep slope, but it's just trying to talk about and educate people so they understand like it is actually normal like to go through that, you know what I mean? Like it's not something that we shouldn't talk about. And I'm happy I'm talking about it because like yeah, it's a tough thing. It was very hard to get out of, and linking it back to Olympic weightlifting, that sort of helped me get through it. But in saying that, that sometimes was a bit of poison as well because weightlifting is a weight class bound sport. You know, if you're lifting in a certain weight category, got to make that weight. So you know, I guess like yeah, when I was competing at the Commonwealth Games, I had to cut 4 kilograms, 4.5 kilos of body weight to get to the 81 kilo class. Me and my coach made that decision because it was a better opportunity for us to get a medal. But it kind of brought back up that sort of like little PTSD and stuff when I was like 5, 6 years before that. But I was like, no, I dealt with it a lot better, but it was still tough. Like I didn't track macros or anything, but still just like having to like be conscious of what I'm eating. I was seeing my physique change, obviously. I was looking a bit leaner, but I was also losing a bit of muscle mass because I'm quite lean as it is. And yeah, it's tough. You know what I mean? It's a hard thing, but it's important to have that conversation, definitely.
Did you feel going then into weightlifting professionally, that obsession did ever take over again?
I felt like at the start for actual training, like for actually wanting to do the weightlifting, like training twice a day, sometimes I'll train 3 times a day, like that obsession sort of happened more in the actual weight room, in the actual programming sort of training capacity. But for the actual like nutrition and stuff, I don't like nutrition's not as important as the actual sort of training in weightlifting because again, it's performance-based sport. It still is incredibly important, but there's no real emphasis on like, oh, you got to look this certain way, or you've got to eat this amount of calories to perform, or whatever like that. It's kind of just like I haven't tracked my macros in over 8 years, and I refuse to. Like I won't do it because I won't go back on that. I won't download that app again. I won't do it because like I was obsessed with it. You know what I mean? So it's like yeah, so it was like weightlifting. I think I was a bit more obsessed, probably more of the actual training component, but that sort of died down a bit as I got more into the sport like that. But yeah,
That's incredible that you found a way and you've put in those boundaries, knowing your personality and yourself and knowing
yeah,
you don't want to go back there, that this is a
oh,
condition that I
100%.
have to do.
Yeah, I've got it. Like I think any athlete has like an obsessive disorder in some capacity, whether it be for like nutrition training or not having balance with their social life or whatever. Like you've got to be obsessed, obviously, to get to the highest point of your sport, right? But there's got to be you got to be able to balance it out with other things too. If weightlifting's taking this much time, I've got to still have other things here. If something else is around here, then weightlifting's got something's got to give eventually. You know what I mean? So that's why I always preach that to my personal athletes and stuff. Like weightlifting is important, but there's other things that need to be important as well. Because if you put all your eggs into that one basket, what's going to happen if you have a bad competition? Or what's going to happen if you don't qualify for a team? Like you're going to feel like crap. You know what I mean? So having like a balance of other things all around, time for family, obviously time for training, obviously your mental health as well. So doing things that make you feel good, going for walks every day, whatever that may be, having a balance of that is so important. Not just going all in one gun ho into one thing.
Is that hard to prioritize when you literally sometimes don't have the time to?
Yeah, 100%. It definitely is. I really do. Like, I do try and make time. Like, I try to walk every day for like 45 minutes to an hour. Obviously, I'm training 3.5, 4 hours sometimes every day. So that's a big chunk of my day as well. And then on top of that, as a business owner, like, I'm working with weightlifting constantly. Like, my life revolves around weightlifting. I'm coaching people doing weightlifting. I'm going to competitions coaching people doing weightlifting. I'm going to the Olympics. I'm advertising for weightlifting. I'm making content on Instagram and YouTube and stuff about weightlifting. And it's like sometimes it's just so all weightlifting. So yeah, it is a struggle. And I do struggle with that. I think what helps is like having friends and family sort of outside of that realm of weightlifting that don't fully understand it actually helps, because it's so refreshing sitting down with some of your friends on a Saturday night and not talking about a barbell and picking up weights. Like, it's actually so refreshing. But when you're surrounded by it like 24/7, which I pretty much am, it's like, even if I go out to get some lunch with some of my athletes, my clients or whatever, like, they just want to talk about weightlifting, and it's like, bro, like, I need to like zone out of this. So me and my partner are good. Like, we've developed strategies to sort of like not get too obsessed with that all the time. Like I said, the walking helps. Sometimes like doing social activities, even on the weekends. Like, we have a policy, like on Sundays, like no weightlifting. Like, we don't talk about it, both of us, because it's like it would just consume you too much. You know what I mean? And yeah, and having friends and family that are kind of like not super involved and not always talking about that conversation of weightlifting definitely helps. Yeah.
I think that can be a struggle for some athletes and probably especially Olympians as well. When, say, you train, I know Olympics is just one of the competitions that you guys compete in, but if we look at the Olympics, 4 years of training for this one moment, and the mindset is nothing else. It's just let's get that medal, and you have to be in order to really want to make that podium. And I completely understand that, but then I think there does come a point where it's, well, who are you when you stop competing? What is your identity beyond that? And sometimes people don't set themselves up for that and then can fall into, unfortunately, unhealthy mind spaces because they haven't made room for anything else to fit in. Have you ever thought about, if it was all taken away, what you would have?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I always think about that. Like, I always think like, yeah, I could wake up tomorrow and like something tragic could happen and I might not be able to weightlift again. How would I deal with that? How would I accept that? Would I have strategies in place like that? I think when I was younger, I definitely would not have been able to handle that because I was so obsessed with it. Not that I'm saying I'm not obsessed now, but I don't feel like I kind of identified myself as weightlifting probably from like age 15 to like 21, 22, like that. But I feel like now that as I've gotten older, I don't identify myself as weightlifting, and that's really important, because if I don't use weightlifting as sort of a gateway or something that, oh, Kyle Bruce weightlifting, everyone knows him like weightlifting like that, it's not going to be so hard for me to, like, if I've stopped training one day, or which I always train, I love training, but like if I stop competing at an elite level, which will happen eventually, I'm ready for that and I'm okay with that. And I think as well, like with my business, I'm already like I'm so focused on that as well. It's kind of like another obsession that's taken over as well. But it's like there's something else to do. Like, I know, like, will be my first Olympics. Like, hopefully I can go to maybe another Olympics, maybe Brisbane 32, like that. But realistically, after that, that's probably like, for a weightlifter, 32 to 33, sort of like that. You're expired, sort of thing. So realistically, probably only got like another 9, 10 years of competitive lifting. So I'm ready for that, because again, I've got my business building up as well. So I know when that stops, I can transition that, put more focus into my business. I can put more focus into like, property or something like that. Like, there's something else that I can do to get over that. There'll just be a new chapter of my life. You know what I mean? And a lot of professional athletes, especially like successful ones, are very good with business. They change that flick. They go into that business flick. They'll open a business. They'll open something that's amazing. Like, yeah, like Michael Klim has like a perfume line and stuff. Like, he's smashing that. Ian Thorpe has his aquatic set. Like, all these like really good athletes, they change that focus into something else. So I think I'm good with that. I think I'm okay with that. I've accepted that. But when I was younger, I don't think I would have been as good.
Mhm. It definitely helps when you have a fully developed brain. It does help the whole
Yeah,
situation.
that's true.
Um,
That's true.
but first Olympics, wow. Are you nervous?
Yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I've been training for. So obviously, I was quite close to Tokyo. I didn't really think I was going to qualify for Tokyo, because I obviously started like 3.5 years before. It's not a lot of time for training to make an Olympics, but I actually ended up getting really close to that. So I wouldn't say I was bummed out for not making Tokyo, but I was kind of like, man, I got a really good shot for Paris. Like I got a really good shot for Paris. So I'm going to keep consistent, keep up the work. So I'm just really grateful that it's all paid off. And, we've been put in the position where we are now. So I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous. Obviously, versing the best in the world is going to be really good. It's going to be a good experience for myself, obviously, Australia as well. It's going to be a big thing for Australian people watching because, usually most Olympics, there's two weightlifting sessions, but these Olympics, there's only going to be one per weight category because weightlifting's reduced the quota spots as the years have gone on. It's just gotten harder and harder and harder to make it. I think Rio, there was like 360 athletes. Now in Paris, there's only 120 that have qualified for weightlifting. So it's dropped like almost triple. Well, no, it is triple, 360, 120. Yeah, it's dropped triple. So it's 33% of what it was in Rio. So that's only 2 Olympics ago, So yeah, it's going to be good. Like it's going to be on the biggest stage of them all. Everyone's going to see me. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm proud to represent. I'm really looking forward to it. A little bit nervous.
I think it wouldn't be normal if you weren't nervous. There's got to be something in there because you care about it. You've worked so hard for it. Explain to me and share with everyone, for people that are not aware of what it actually is when you go to, say, the Olympics in terms of weightlifting. What are the categories? How does it work? Because even myself, to be honest, I have no idea. So I'd like to know what it is in terms of when you go to the Olympics. How do you compete in weightlifting?
Yeah, so for these Olympics, if you're watching weightlifting at the Olympic Games, you'll see there'll be 5 weight categories for males and 5 weight categories for females. Obviously, the weight categories they spread, but for the females, it's the 49 kilo category, the 59 kilo category, the 71 kilo category, 81, and then 81 plus, which is kind of like anyone that weighs over 81 kilograms. It's just a sort of free for all like that. So most girls will weigh 100 plus kilos in that category. For the men, it's 61 kilos, it's 73 kilos, 89 kilos, which will be the category I'll be competing in, 102, and then 102 plus, which again is sort of like that super heavyweight type range. So 5 weight categories. Each category, there's about 12 to 13 athletes competing in every single session. So my session, there's 12. Other sessions, there's 13. Some there's 11, like that. And basically, we do 2 movements in the Olympics. We do the snatch and the clean and jerk. So the snatch is where we grip the barbell wider and we just pull the bar up in one motion. So it's a one movement lift, okay? We just have it out to arm's length, make sure our arms are locked out, stand up the rep. It's a good lift, okay? If you can't secure the barbell overhead, it will be deemed a no lift like that. The second movement in the second portion of the competition is clean and jerk. So that's where we bring the bar up in a deadlift. We catch it onto our front rack like that. We squat it up into a clean. We then set and then we push it over our head into either any type of jerk, split jerk, power jerk, whatever. And then we just hold it there until the buzzer comes and then we just drop it. So snatch, clean and jerk is what we do. And yeah, there's some other technicalities and stuff around it. I think a lot of people learn a bit more about those little technicalities because when I competed at Birmingham, actually, I won the gold medal and that got retracted and turned over, and I ended up getting silver because of a technicality. So I did a Commonwealth Games record, and I won the gold medal of 183 kilos, locked it out, held the bar, got the down signal. They gave me 3 white lights at the time. So I thought I won the gold. 10 seconds later, they stopped the competition. The jury reviewed it. So there's 3 referees. There's a center, left, and right ref, and then there's 5 people at the back who they just watched the competition. The jury said, we need to stop. We think there was an infringement of his elbow. It wasn't fully locked out. It kind of moved and wobbled around a little bit. They then reviewed it. 2 minutes later, said, yeah, no, it's a no lift. He's got silver medal. So that was pretty hard. But it was crap, obviously. But people were sort of like, I had so many people message me that weren't involved with weightlifting going, bro, what happened? You made the lift. You won the gold medal. You won the Commonwealth Games. Like, what happened? I'm like, I pressed the barbell out. My arms were a little bit wobbly. They're like, man, that's so stupid. You literally did the lift. Like, why are they so strict about it? So there's little technicalities like that. I don't really go into those details with people because if you're trying to look for those technicalities, you're not really going to get the overall competition. As long as you understand the principles, like we do snatch, we do clean jerk, we got to hold it to arm's length, and we've got to wait for the down signal. 3 white lights or 2 white lights is a good lift. That's all you need to know for weightlifting.
Wow. And just quickly on, like, say, the round so that you can progress, do
Yep.
they give you the weights you've got to meet, or you set the weights?
Yes. So we have a set weight that we're going to start at for both snatch and clean and jerk. And then the other competitors will have their own set weight as well. And then the competition will just be a rising barbell. So if I'm starting on 50 kilos for the snatch, and and I make that successfully, I'll probably go up to like 155 kilos. There might be another athlete who's on 153. He'll then go out, then I'll go on 155 kilos. Or you might have a bunch of athletes all starting around 160 kilos. You know, maybe it's like 5 different countries on 160 kilos. So then they'll just consecutively follow each other like that. So it can be a bit of like game of strategy and stuff, but it's important just to look at the board and just know where the weights are and stuff. Most athletes know what they're doing. Like most athletes have a set plan going into games, like myself. But it's more just just staying composed on the day and executing like that. But yeah, it's just the rising barbell. So it starts from the lowest to the highest like that. So yeah.
Wow. Are you prepared for if it does not go to plan on the day?
Yeah, like the way I look at like any big competition, and this is something that's changed as I've gotten older, I think psychologically is like, I know as long as I've done the work in the prep, which I've been doing right now, I've tried to account for everything I possibly can, whether it be I'm getting massage weekly, I'm getting chiropractic, I'm getting my dry needling, I'm making sure my nutrition's dialed in, I'm supplementation, I'm getting my creatine, my protein, I'm training 9, 10 times a week, I'm doing my sauna and spas, I'm just doing ice bar, everything. I'm doing all the good stuff athletes need to do. I know at the end of the day, if I've done all that, realistically, I will perform and on the day because I've done that. And if I don't, so be it. I've done everything I can. I went out there, I gave it a good crack. I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that. You know what I mean? I feel like as I was younger, I put so much stress and emphasis on these big competitions that if it did stuff up, I wasn't prepared to deal with that. I didn't know how to deal with that. It got me really down. It got me really upset. I didn't know, I was like, oh man, what's going on? Like this shouldn't have happened. But I feel like now as I'm a bit more wiser, I'm like, you know what? If I've done the work in the prep, the results will speak on the platform. And if they don't speak, it is what it is. Maybe it just wasn't my day. It's okay, you know? Yeah.
Mm. How do you prepare your body for doing something like that? Like putting it under so much immense pressure and then, adding in the nerves as well as your competitors. How do you prepare your body to turn up as its best version on the day?
Most people that do weightlifting or any sport that has just sort of like one competition every 4 years, like you said, we'll peak our training for months prior, 6 months prior, like that. We'll build up to a certain base of strength and a base of like endurance in our legs, etc. And then once we get close to the competition, we'll start to pull that back. We'll sort of like deload and freshen up our body a little bit. So that way on the day of the competition, we're feeling fresh, we're feeling sharp, and there's no reason why we can't perform well. So currently, like I'm 1 month out, training's really hard right now, very intense. Like body's feeling terrible, but it's all part of it. But I know in 3 weeks' time, once I've gone through that hard training, I'll start to pull my training back a little bit. I'll start feeling a bit fresher. I won't be in so much pain in my joints and stuff. I'll be feeling a bit more snappy like that. So yeah, generally speaking, before a big weightlifting competition, we're peaking and training really hard months before. And then as we get closer, we pull that load back a little bit just so our body can start feeling snappy and our CNS can start recovering, and then we can start feeling better on the days. That's kind of what we do, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And, in the lead up to Paris and to Europe, what do you also do for your mindset to get your head right for the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I just try not to think too much about it. Like, obviously, you can get caught in the whole trap. Like, man, you're going to the Olympics, you're going to the pinnacle of your sport. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've had people tell me this. I'm like, bro, chill out. All good. Yes, I know. You don't need to reiterate it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say I try to like not think of it like that because I know the seriousness and the importance of what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve. But I try to disassociate myself a little bit with that and just think, you know what, I'm just going to a local competition. I'm just going there to do the best I can because I feel like when I set myself that sort of that standard, I don't usually not perform too well. Like I always do okay. It's when I tell myself like, okay, this is big, this is important. Like you gotta shape up, sort of thing. That's when my brain starts going into overdrive, and then all of a sudden I'm not sleeping the night before, and I'm stressing out, I'm having anxiety, I'm panicking, and I'm like, So I guess I just try to like not. I guess I just try to keep it casual, not put too much stress on it. I know the importance of it. Everyone knows that. Obviously, I know what I'm doing, but just going in there, sort of, I guess, to have fun as well.
Oh, definitely. I think you need to have fun, especially with it all. I mean, as we said, such a big lead up and all this training, and it should be celebrated no matter what, because you made it there. You were able to
Yeah,
get there, and
100%.
especially being your first one as well, to go soak it all in
Mm.
Paris as well would be phenomenal. Have you thought about what you're
Yeah.
going to do after the Olympics?
Yeah, I have actually. Like, I think post Olympics, I think for me, I'm gonna probably take a bit of a break from lifting, sort of like at a high level for a little bit, just to give my body a bit of
Give your body a break.
needed rest. 100%. Like, I've been doing this competitive, like I said, for about eight and a half years now. So I think just give my body a bit of a break. I don't know how long it's going to be. It might be a few months, it might be a year, nothing crazy, just enough for me to sort of get that itch and drive again to compete. Because I mean, going to the Olympics is exciting, but the whole actual qualification process of making Olympics was really tough. Like, that was probably some of the hardest things I've had to go through mentally, like doing back-to-back international competitions, having to be stressed and prepared and lift under those pressures and those conditions, like was very, very stressful. So I felt like, making the Olympic team was exciting, but I feel like the whole process of trying to qualify really kind of burnt me out a little bit, if I'm being honest. So going to the Olympics, obviously, I'm full focus, full attentive to what I'm doing. But I feel like post Olympics, yeah, I think a definite little bit of a break is needed, just sort of a reset. And then we'll think of some new goals sort of once I feel ready for that conversation, and then move forward like that. But I think, yeah, a bit of a break, more focus on my business, 100%. Not that I've been slacking off my business, but I can definitely put more time and effort into my business that I wouldn't have been able to do if I was preparing for an Olympics, right? So that will probably take over for a little bit, yeah.
Because I think it's funny, we talk about, the body can take a lot and the mind can take a lot. We push the limits. But I feel like as well, it can sometimes come to a point where it does need a break. It can adapt and it can be pushed beyond those limits. But when it is pushed a lot, it does need a bit of a come down in order to relax and to really
Yeah,
process as well
one
the stress.
absolutely, and I'm kind of like, I'm prepared for that. And a lot of people that I've spoke to, like former Olympians, have said, so, are you ready? Like post Olympics, like, are you prepared for it? Like, it could be a tough time. Like, you've had this goal your whole life, especially your first Olympics, and you do that, and then it might go really well. You might do awesome. You might not. Regardless, there's going to be a time. It might be a few days later or a week later where you're going, shit. Like, I've done this. Like, what is there next? Kind of like, are you ready for that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for that, because I've just soaked myself into my business. It's all good. but no, but seriously, like, I am feeling like I'm ready for that. I know what work I've done to get to where I am, and obviously, like, I'm ready for like what happens post that. And I've got strategies and plans put in place to be able to deal with that and work through that. So I think being realistic with that's really important as well. 100%.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing this conversation, your story with us. I do want to end with a couple of questions,
Absolutely.
more directed at yourself and your story. But the first one being, with your Olympic journey so far, what do you, or even just your journey in general to get to where you are, what do you think has been the biggest lesson that you have found has really stuck with you throughout?
I think for me, like a sport like weight, I think patience is something that's been really hard for me to accept. But being at this level in weightlifting, I think it's something that's so important. I think coming to terms with being patient and trusting the process is something that I've had to kind of adopt a bit more. Yeah, I'm always like gung ho, like I just want to be the best at whatever I do. I want to show people that, but actually being patient and sticking to it is really important. So yeah, patience, 100%.
Mm. What do you hope people get out of hearing your story?
I just hope people like see a real sort of true, real uncut insight into like, someone that's sort of made it to a decent level, I suppose, in the sport that they're doing. And sort of the realities of what it's like to be kind of an athlete. Like I like people to I feel like people just think athletes are like robots and don't have any personality and all they do is train and like, there's like that. It's so much more than that. You know what I mean? I just hope people watch this and see like, oh, he's interesting, like he's a really open about his story, and like, I sympathize with him, but also like I can have a conversation with him if I'm feeling a certain way, so just, yeah, bringing up a conversation, just knowing like I am approachable. Athletes are approachable, we're not just robots. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, you're not just in your green and gold suits going around just seeking out medals all the time.
That's it. Oh, of course, 100%.
No, I love him. And then for yourself, if your dad was here today, what do you think he would say to you knowing that you're going to your first Olympics?
Oh, he'd be so proud. He'd be super proud of me because obviously, like I said, sport was something that was so engraved into me from a young age, both from mum and dad, but probably more from dad. So I think he'd be super happy. I mean, he'd be like, "This is the pinnacle of sport. Like you've made it to where we've always talked about from a young age. Like He'd be super proud. I'm sure he'd be really proud, you know. Yeah, I'm getting a bit teary.
Run from that. We'll run from that. Thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on a journey that is so amazing, to get to this point and to go to your first Olympics, representing Australia in your green and gold. Like, amazing. I can't wait to watch. As I said, don't understand a lot, but I know enough now that I'll be able to watch and see you progress
There you
through. And I know
go.
you'll be coming home with a medal. It's you've
Let's
done
go.
everything and you've done the work, which is absolutely phenomenal. And for people out there as well to see that, you know, you can just be an everyday person. You just have to have that strength and that mindset to push through, and you can have your own struggles, but sometimes you just got to switch that mindset from, you know, choosing unhealthy behaviors towards something that is going to positively inspire you and motivate you to be great in whatever you want to do in life.
100%. Well said. That's it.
Well, thank you. Good luck. Although I don't think you'll need it. You'll be fine. Just go have fun and enjoy yourself. But thank you so much for jumping on today.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No worries. And thank you as well to everyone else out there for joining us for another Secret Sunday session. We'll catch you guys all next time.